It's time for See You in Tampa, the rematch. Sponsored by George St. Country Lawyers.
That's really all it is. It's the only thing we haven't done. And we got a big challenge. I mean, you got to slay a dragon Monday night now. I mean, that's the way I would want it. And if it doesn't go our way, we're going to stay relevant. We're not going away. Now, these guys have the heart and the guts to do it, but we got to earn it and do it on the field against a team that's every bit as good and wants it as bad as you do.
So, we are here again. Good evening from Tampa, Florida. I'm Scott Eisberg alongside Darren Stoltzfus. Last year, it was Phoenix, Arizona. This year, Tampa, Florida. Darren, do you believe we are here again for the rematch?
We thought we might see this at the end of last year. You heard Dabo say if they lose this game, it's not going to be over. You know, Clemson's not going anywhere, and they certainly proved that coming back. But being here back in Tampa, it's a little colder. We're in the midst of all these fans, hearing the Tiger chants and the Roll Tides, if you will. It's a good time to be here. Absolutely.
This morning, Dabo Swinney and Nick Saban taking the same photo op they did a year ago. All hands on the trophy that Saban hoisted last year, representing the national championship. He has won 5 times in his career. Dabo Swinney losing much of last year's team, but bringing back the key cog of it, Deshaun Watson. It will be a battle tomorrow night. It is what they play for.
With what Coach Saban has done, the amount of championships in the span of time, with scholarships, and I mean, it's just incredible. I mean, I really have no words because it's really hard to do. It's just like us. If we can win this thing tomorrow night, it's not like it's our final destination. Like we just, hang up the cleats and walk away. You're always trying to get better, and that's what I give Coach Saban credit for. He's worked really hard. Every year is kind of that season of its own.
Clemson deserves to be here, and I think they're the best team, and I think our team deserves to be here, and they've done a great job all year to beat a lot of good teams, to have the opportunity to get here as well. And if I was going to pick who the 2 best teams are, I would say the 2 best teams are here. And that's the way it should be. That's the way a playoff should be.
As much as these teams are looking forward to tomorrow night, this is all that matters. You have to look back at last year a little bit. It's the talk of the town. It is the rematch. What a classic. Great game last year, a 45-40 Alabama win for the Clemson Tigers. They were talking about Bama as soon as they got off the field in Phoenix last week.
Clemson's back. We're back another year. We're back in the Natty. We're back for revenge. We're back for redemption. And we're coming for Alabama. Been looking for this game for the past year. I'm just ready for Monday.
Another shot at Bama. What's that mean to you?
Another shot at Bama. We said coming out of here that we want to get back here and make sure that we celebrate the right way in this locker room. But we got some unfinished business. These guys right here, they took it to heart. They've bottled up that emotion that they felt last time coming off this field, and I'm looking forward to a good game next week.
Alabama's been Alabama for quite a while now. So I always kept an eye on them, but they've earned that right. And I respect them as a team. You can't take nothing away from them. But, it's good we get a chance to play them again and get the rematch.
Well, a year ago, it was undefeated Clemson. They were the 1 seed. Alabama was the 2 seed. This time around, it's 13-1. Clemson taking on an Alabama team that has not lost in a while. Let's take a look at how these 2 teams got to Tampa.
For Clemson, the road to Tampa began down on the plains in Auburn. Sports4 there is the offense out of sync. The defense carrying the load, setting the tone for the rest of the season. A road win in the opener for the first time since 1985.
I would like to have seen us in midseason form. We weren't perfect, but we found a way to win the game.
That first month for the Tigers testing, but they went to Georgia Tech and left undefeated for the first time in program history. Number 3, Louisville, Lamar Jackson, a Heisman Trophy winner, couldn't derail this team. Another historical hurdle cleared in Tallahassee. First road win at Florida State in a decade.
But all we're trying to do again is right now just one bite at a time, man. Just get to 9-0.
But it all could have come crashing down, despite Deshaun Watson throwing the ball 70 times for 580 yards. Pitt nearly knocking Clemson out of playoff contention. It's that lost dominating wins, a division championship, a state championship, a conference championship, and then a Fiesta Bowl championship. The only title left, the only hurdle left, the only trophy this team hasn't hoisted yet. That national championship, Clemson's lone title, coming 35 years ago. On the other side, it almost seems like Alabama cruising to Tampa. Game number 1, a 52-6 blowout of USC. Southern Cal, who just won the Rose Bowl. 13 wins in a row after that for the Tide. Nearly a miss at Ole Miss, a 5-point win at Oxford, but every other game won by double digits. This defense allowing just 16 touchdowns all season. Just 3 TDs in their last 6 ball games. The defense themselves, they've scored 11 TDs. This is a dominant football team looking for their 5th national championship in 8 years, riding a 26-game win streak. They're a touchdown favorite in the biggest game of the year, not only looking to go back-to-back, but break the hearts of the Clemson Tigers for a 2nd straight year. See you in Tampa, the rematch, tomorrow night.
What a journey for Dabo Swinney to get here. Amazing. The 2nd time now he plays his alma mater for a national championship. His career, so many twists and turns, but none bigger than back in 2008. Tommy Bowden fired. He is promoted to interim head coach. That interim head coach, almost a decade later now, Dabo Swinney. Confidence has never been his issue.
No, I thought I had the formula the day they named me interim. But you don't go poof, the magic dragon. It just doesn't work that way. It's a hell of a lot of work.
But if you listen to the ESPN broadcast that fateful day against Georgia Tech, you might not think the career would have taken this meteoric rise up.
Clemson 21-17. Andre, your final grade on Dabo Swinney and the job he did today.
Well, I'm going to have to say about a C when you grade the overall game. I thought he made some nice adjustments in the second half, but the first half they never really could catch up from it. Took a lead, allowed Georgia Tech back in it. So I'm going to overall grade a C.
And imagine your first game on the sideline as a head coach, having your boss, your athletics director, on the sideline, in essence, stride for stride with you in your ear.
You know what? That's not a place for the athletic director. Go up and sit in your nice, suite and take the game in up there. Let the coaches coach. And if you want to coach the football team, then put on a headset.
Well, you might think that would be the turning point. Swinney believes it was in that same stadium with that same athletics director 2 years later after Clemson had taken a bad loss to South Carolina.
Wife meets me outside the door, and she's got tears in her eyes, and she's just going, "I'm sorry, babe. It was a tough, obviously a very disappointing day, and it had been a disappointing season." She said, "Terry Don's in your office." And so, I walked from that glass door to my office thinking I'm getting ready to be fired, and literally. And in fact, I said to myself, I said, well, hey, did the best I could do. I'm thankful for the opportunity, and God never says oops. That was kind of really what I said. Took a deep breath, and he even had the light on. Door was kind of cracked, and I walk in the office, and it's dark. And Terry Don's sitting on the couch. I mean, it's right after the game. He said, "I know you're disappointed." He said, "And there's going to be a lot of criticism for you and me." He said, "But let me tell you something. I'm more confident right now, this moment, that you're the guy for this job than I was when I hired you. You just do whatever you need to do, continue to do things the way you've been doing them, and I believe with all my heart things are going to work out." Gave me a hug, got up and left.
Hanging with Dabo, a pretty good move. On the day he was hired, Clemson Nation knew they were taking a gamble on the unknown commodity. His response, "I've got pocket tens and we're going all in." Almost a decade later,
we got a really good hand. I'm in the blind. I ain't telling you. We got a really good hand. We got as good a hand as anybody out there. You got at least a king high flush, and you hope they don't have the ace. That's all it's going to beat you. So we got a really, really good hand, we've been all in since day one, and we're still all in to this day with everything we got.
At Clemson, of course, as their offense goes, it's as Deshaun Watson goes. For Alabama, they're no different, except they're doing it with a freshman quarterback. Jalen Hurts, pretty daggone good in his first year for Nick Saban. What he's done, well, he's the guy Dabo Swinney says you can't consider him a freshman anymore. 14 games in for the Tide, and Jalen Hurts is the freshman All-American. He is doing everything he can. The ironic thing is he was the scout team quarterback, mimicking Clemson quarterback Dabo Swinney in preparations for last year's championship game. That's their guy, their position squared away, ready for his first action in a national championship.
It's no secret. Like I've said all day, I'm just being Jalen Hurts, just being myself. You can't let the stage change who you are or what you've done. I'm just being myself. I mean, I've gotten here being myself. We've gotten here being Alabama, nothing more than that. So hopefully we can continue to do that on Monday.
There is no more important player in this game than Deshaun Watson. In all likelihood, it is his final game. He hasn't officially declared yet for the draft, but it'll likely happen. But for bottom line, Deshaun Watson, this is it. This is his final chance to get that coveted national championship.
Having a confetti rain down on us for the wrong reason. And that reason was, because Alabama won it and, we lost the game. So, we just try to, regroup, refocus, and, try to get back here and have it for the right reason.
He is as good as it gets, and while Watson, not a man of many words, quiet in tone, certainly not one to use those words talking about himself, others who see him most certainly will.
If I'm going to be a backup to anybody, might as well be the backup to, the best player in the nation. Getting to learn from him this past, 3 years that he's been here has been unbelievable. Nobody approaches the game better than he does. Nobody prepares better than he does. And, it's just a testament to how he performs on the field.
Schussler, no choice but to be backing him up, seems just fine with that role. He gets the best seat in the house every game, every practice. But one guy who just can't sit back and enjoy, Brandon Streeter, the QB coach, who has to fine-tune the top talent.
One of the neat things that I have is the ability to relate to him because I have been in the same seat before. He was a much better player than I was, but we played on the same team. We played on Clemson University, at Clemson University, and so I'm able to relate to him in that way. Obviously, you find what he does best, what his talents are, and that's a lot of things. So you got to be able to be careful to do too much with him and be able to scale down and make him not have to think too much. And I think that's important so that he can play fast.
We just try to focus on, creating that momentum and carrying it over to this game. And we don't really focus on what we did against Ohio State because it's a whole different team. It's a whole different week. So, it's hard to get the same results. It's different things that's going to happen throughout the game that's going to happen. And, we just try to focus on, what we can do this week to, get the same results and get the W.
With a similar performance from Deshaun, a much better shot of a very similar result. Darren, you were there in Phoenix last week. He really is that good.
He is, and he can take over a game. His best game as a Clemson Tiger came in the national championship game last year. I guess Pitt could be a better game statistically, but they lost that game. So Nick Schussler actually played in Phoenix 6 minutes. So maybe we'll see number 12 under center tomorrow night as well.
I think Clemson fans would like that because you'd be way ahead in the game. Stay with us. Much more still to come after the break. Welcome back to Tampa, Florida. We're on the promenade right outside the bay, and it is beautiful. Down a little chilly, but still perfect, and I think tomorrow night even better for football weather. And no bigger storyline heading into this one than the Lane Kiffin storyline. Alabama's offensive coordinator takes the Florida Atlantic head coaching job. He stays with Alabama through the Peach Bowl, but Nick Saban basically says no more.
And we've seen Alabama assistants stay on and coach in national championship games, but according to several reports, this is a mutual decision. Lane Kiffin not coaching. Steve Sarkisian will be in, but he was being distracted. He wasn't coming to meetings on time, according to several reports. He was, I think, even left by the team bus on media day. Not a good look for Lane Kiffin.
Absolutely. So Sark takes over as the offensive coordinator, calling plays for the national championship game. Sark, the former head coach of Washington and Southern Cal, fired for drinking issues, and Nick Saban giving him another chance, another lease on a career, and now in his first game back as an official coach, not an analyst, he's coaching in a national championship game.
Life is good. Life is good. Like I said, I'm grateful to Coach Saban and the University of Alabama and the family that we have here, the support that they've given me and the trust that they've given me in this situation to go out and do what I love to do. I wouldn't go with nervous. I'm excited. This is what I love to do. And, I've been doing this a long time. I've been fortunate to have coached in some big games in my career. Obviously, this is another big one. These guys have earned the right to be in this game, and my mindset is just putting them in the best position to be successful.
And Sark says he's going to call plays from the sidelines. That's going to be a challenge for Clemson defensive coordinator Brent Venables. He's one of the best in the business, won the Broyles Award. Certainly looking forward to an offense. He doesn't really know anything about their play calling tendencies. Can't study them. This is Sark's first game with this team. Through all their backgrounds, Sark and Kiffin very similar. A bit of an unknown, though. Bottom line, Clemson's defense has been dominant this year, especially of late. That 31-0 shutout in the Fiesta Bowl against Ohio State.
And that's what you don't have. You don't have data, real hardcore data. Where he is today may be different than where he was 2 years ago. How he thinks, how he looks at things, how he would handle things, what he wants to do against certain schemes. So, again, we can't wholeheartedly change what we do. We need to be prepared to make some adjustments. And again, still comes down to, I think, the fundamentals of the game.
Yesterday was media day over at the Amalie Arena, a real free-for-all for us to talk to all the players on both teams, but it was also our chance to pick the brains of some of the top sportscasters in the country, the guys who will be calling this game for ESPN. With ESPN's face of college football, Reese Davis. Reese, when you look at this game and you look at the rematch, is it kind of what you expected, or did it surprise you that it's Alabama and Clemson?
Well, we've never had it before in the whole history of the sport, but in many ways, I think the whole season sort of built to this. I mean, these were the two teams that, for the most part, and there were some challenges along the way, but for the most part, they were the best two teams all season. So, in many ways, you step back now, take that 30,000-foot view, and you can sort of see, almost the collision path coming back to what we'll see Monday night.
When you saw the game last year, how does it compare to championship games in the past? I mean, it's one of the best that I remember. You've seen a lot more than I have. How did it compare?
I think you just called me old, but it certainly was a great game, thrilling. I don't know that it was always executed perfectly, and both sides would tell you that, but sometimes those make the best games. Just highly competitive with tremendous athletes on both sides, great coaching as I empty the cliche bucket, but I think just the back and forth nature of the game, special teams plays, relentless effort from Clemson made it as good a championship game as I can remember. I wouldn't quite put it next to right there with SC Texas, but I would say half tick below that maybe.
When you look at Deshaun Watson a year later, is he that much better, or was he that good last year?
Deshaun's been really good since the day he stepped on campus, and he gets better virtually every snap, it seems. I know he's turned the ball over a lot this year, some of them in uncharacteristic fashion, but he's a tremendous player. I think the best player in college football. And, I think his impact on a game we haven't seen. It's reserved for the elite guys, reserved for the Cam Newtons, Johnny Manziels, people like that who impact the game just by taking the snap. And Deshaun's like that.
Final question. From our perspective, Dabo and Nick Saban are two of the most opposite people. Just Dabo is so warm and charismatic. Saban is so robotic. To your perspective, when you meet them behind the scenes, are they similar at all, or are they really that different?
No, I mean, they're different personalities, but there's some similarities as well. First of all, Nick is understated, but he can be really funny, and which I think surprises a lot of people, and I think he cares about people. He doesn't... he does things for people that people don't know about, just as Dabo does. And Dabo has an intensely competitive streak, and he's always ready to go toe-to-toe with people challenging him. So there are some similarities between the two, but obviously they have different personalities as well. But the good thing is that both of them use their personality and coach to it and recruit to it, and has been highly effective and successful for both.
Reese, thanks so much for your time. Enjoy the game.
Joined by Marty Smith from ESPN helping us break down this game. And Marty, you've covered Clemson, you've covered Alabama. What do you see when you see these two football teams?
Very complete teams. It's really insane the amount of talent on both sides of the ball. And I think if Clemson's going to win this game, for the record, they have a great chance. If they're going to win this game, I think the wide receiving core has to win individual matchups against Bama's DBs, who are all Americans, So those are going to be some amazing matchups. But if Deshaun can stretch the field and take advantage of that, they got better than a puncher's chance.
Everybody talks about that scoring defense for Alabama. They score so many touchdowns. Just how can Clemson keep them in check when Deshaun's been known to throw a few picks?
Just don't turn it over. I know it's elementary school, but I think that Jeff and Tony, Elliott and Scott, the offensive coordinators, need to make sure that they set him up to succeed. And they do that. And he likes to take shots. And he has the weapons to take shots. I think they need to take some shots. But generally, they need to take a more conservative type of approach that way.
We saw just an absolute slugfest in Phoenix last year. Same two teams this time around. How's the game different a year later?
One of the best games I've ever been a part of or seen. It was I like how Dabo always says it was decided by 3 or 4 plays, and he's right. Clemson proved they belong. And I think the biggest difference this year is that Clemson knows they belong. Alabama obviously knows they belong. They've won 26 straight games, and they're the standard in college football. But there is an air at Clemson University that these young men are well aware that they're good enough to win the game. They belong in the game. They've experienced all of this minutia that surrounds it, and they're ready to go win it.
Awesome. Thanks, Marty. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
So that's Marty Smith, ESPN. We got much more coming up after this. Welcome back to Tampa Bay. We are talking about Tony Elliott, the James Island graduate. First called his plays against the Russell Athletics Bowl against Oklahoma, I guess 2.5 years ago. Already calling plays for the second time in a national championship. Pretty cool.
It's pretty amazing. He really is the favorite son of James Island. I was talking to some James Islanders out here today, all talking about Tony Elliott. Everyone's got a Tony Elliott story over on the island, but no one has more than David Reese, his high school coach at James Island High School. Across the state of South Carolina, Dabo Swinney has become the beloved figure representing the Clemson program. On James Island, Tony Elliott surely giving Dabo a run for his money.
Obviously, everybody on James Island's proud of Tony, but he's such a great kid. He was, a great kid in high school. He, was great on the football team. He started on the basketball team for Ronnie Dupree, then played for Tom Hatley center field, I think on the state championship baseball team. So we're all awfully proud of him.
Nobody prouder than Reese, and very few aside from him know how far Elliott has come from then to now.
I'm just thrilled. You don't know how much these kids take to heart what you say to them, but like I said, I found Tony in the weight room, and I said, son, you okay? You just had the bar. He said, Coach, I'm all right if you don't put any weight on this bar. And I kind of laughed. And he came down one day at practice, and he said, Coach, so the defensive coach said, I'm not good enough to play safety. Do you think I could try out for receiver? A week later, he caught 12 balls for 200 yards in the opening game.
I love Coach Reese, and I appreciate everything that he's done for me. If it wasn't for his confidence in me as a high school player, I wouldn't be where I am today. So really appreciate him. But and it's not just me. It's just I think it's the entire program, and it's just the charisma that Coach Swinney has, the principles and fundamentals that we try to hold ourselves accountable to, and then also our players. And I think that's why a lot of people are taking notice of Clemson.
So Monday night, Reese will sit alone and watch, analyze every play like the coach he is and the coach he taught Tony to be.
I do watch what he does. I tell you what, I thought the play of the night where they ran the flanker in motion and the kid from Ohio State ran with him, and then they just come out and pitched the ball on the option, and the running back just walked in. What a great call at that time, and it's not too sophisticated. It was simple, but it was good enough for a touchdown. So I just enjoy watching him, see what he's going to do.
And whether Tony Elliott goes down as a national title offensive coordinator or a 2-time runner-up, it doesn't change anything for David Reese.
It's just wonderful. I'm just so glad for him. I can't think anybody that deserves this more than him after all he went through as a young child. And it's awesome to see that he has done so well. But you know what? Better than being a great football coach, he's just a great guy.
From a proud coach to a proud dad. Clemson's other co-offensive coordinator, Jeff Scott, a rising star in the profession. While Elliott's coach watches from afar, Scott's dad watches him from up close. Former South Carolina Gamecocks head coach Brad Scott works off the field for the Clemson program, giving him a front row seat to everything his son is doing. As an offensive coordinator, he too in his second national championship game.
Well, obviously extremely proud for him, excited for him, and he grew up with it, had been to a national championship game before and being the one last year, but he and Tony Elliott both have worked extremely hard, and for a dad that's kind of sitting back and watching, it's just very surreal and just very, very proud of him.
95% is not football. It's about family. And but there are those moments where I'll come in and ask his opinion on something, whether it be in recruiting or game planning or something. And he is allowed to watch some video and give Coach Elliott, myself, and Coach Caldwell his opinion every once in a while on some things. So, but majority of our conversations are not related to football.
So from throwing touchdown passes for the Clemson Tigers to drilling teeth in Charleston, we've got the story of a Cullen Harper coming up after the break.
Start the new year off right at the first ever
New roads always open at CruiseChevrolet.com with test drives and that new car smell at Cruise Chevrolet on Rip.
At Island Premier Luxury in Polly's Island, we're making dreams affordable. Are you ready to make your dream car a reality? Now is the time. See us today. Trade in your vehicle for the car that you've always deserved but never thought you could afford. At Island Premier Luxury, we're making dreams affordable every day.
Well, tomorrow night, Dabo Swinney will go for career win 88 as the head coach of the Clemson Tigers. But we'll go back now to win number 1 when he was an interim head coach. It was at Boston College, and his quarterback that day, Cullen Harper. Harper, now living in Charleston and very much in tune with his old team and his old coach. It all seems like a distant memory for Cullen Harper. The program then a small inkling of what it is now, but Harper's hands all over the first bricks placed in the new foundation.
When I went there, we were just starting to build the facilities and the infrastructure I think that it takes to compete at that high level. And, with the staff and the strength and conditioning program that we have now and all the pieces of the puzzle I feel like Coach Swinney has brought in and put together, just looking at it from afar, it's something special.
Home where the heart is, and a piece of his will always be in the upstate. But for now, Charleston is where he lays his head and will clean your teeth. Halfway done with dental school.
I'm in the middle of my second year. I've got about 2 years left, and so it's been a long road, but I'm really excited, getting ready to start working on patients over in the sim lab and in the clinic, and so just excited and really enjoying it. It's been a long process, but it's been fun along the way too.
Harper, Dabo's first winning QB. Dabo's current one, certainly on Cullen's radar.
I remember the first time I saw him play. I was actually at the game over in Athens, and he came in and threw that touchdown pass right over the middle. And my dad and I both just looked at each other, and you could tell right away that he was going to be something special. And just throughout that first year that he had, and then building on it again. And I really enjoy watching interviews and seeing him interact with his players and teammates because he's a special guy. I think he's by far the best quarterback in the country, and I think he's the best player in the country.
He knew Dabo the assistant. He knew Dabo the interim. He knew Dabo the head coach, and now he knows him the star in the profession. But to Harper, all those Dabos really the same old Dabo.
One of the biggest things that can help a coach is having players that want to go out there and play hard for you. And so all along, he's been preparing for this moment ever since he got into the game. I think he had a notebook full of things that he wanted to do as soon as he became a head coach. And he didn't know when he was going to become head coach, but as soon as he got that opportunity, he was prepared and was ready for it. And, it's been incredibly impressive, the things he's been able to do.
Well, Harper will be here in Charleston, not in Tampa, Monday night. His eyes, his heart in the Sunshine State.
I think it would be special because, we all know how special Clemson is and the potential that we have. And I just think it's been, proven it to everybody outside of the country. I think a lot of times people think of Clemson as a regional school, but that's not true at all. I think with the success that we've had the last few years, just proving to everybody that we're a national powerhouse and we're going to be someone who's got to be contended with each and every year. So that's something that's very special to me and something I take great pride in.
Colin, of course, helping Dabo Swinney get win number 1 as the quarterback. Dabo now has 88 wins, which is the number he wore at Alabama.
Pretty amazing to see. We will have much more on Low Country Products coming up after the break. Welcome back to Tampa. This game, it means so much to so many that play in it. Everyone has a different meaning for this game. A lot of guys told me this week, this game, their reason for coming back this year instead of going into the NFL draft.
And certainly some guys who missed out on that experience last year, getting a shot to play at a national championship. This year, a couple mainstays as well.
Deion Kane suspended for last year's Orange Bowl and national championship for a violation of team policy, widely reported as a failed drug test. A guy who in many ways let his team down, but worked his way back on it. And this year, he's broken out. On the field, 9 touchdowns for the speedster, who will now not only get to play in a national title game, but he'll do it in his hometown.
It's a humbling experience because last year I wasn't able to attend the national championship. So now that I'm here again, it's a blessing. You can't ever do everything twice. So now we got another opportunity. Now I'm just here with no regrets and go play my heart out.
Is it the kind of thing where you get nerves and butterflies when you walk on the field because it is the national championship and you haven't been there, or is it you played in enough big games?
I mean, played in enough big games throughout our season, but at the end of the day, every athlete's get them jitters and butterflies before a game. But once the game get going, then everybody should be fine.
It's also a first national title game for Mike Williams, a wideout who's probably going to be the number 1 wide receiver taken in the NFL draft. He was out in Phoenix last year, couldn't play out for the season after breaking a bone in his neck against Wofford. Williams coming back to school, not only increasing his draft stock, but also allowing him to experience a game like this.
Williams from Orangeburg County, right down the road in North Charleston, Dorchester County, a guy we know quite well.
Absolutely. Big John Simpson, one of the biggest people on that team, but also the guy with the biggest smile on his face so many times.
Yeah, Steve LaPrade says he's a future NFLer, no question about it. Simpson won the state championship with Fort Dorchester just last year. Now, look where he's come. He'll play in the biggest game of college football. Simpson dodged a bullet back on the field after what appeared to be a serious injury in the South Carolina game. Now, in his first year of college football, he plays in a game they all dream of, and he personally plays for his 2nd straight championship.
Just playing it like it's another game, not like over preparing or under preparing. Just play like just think about it as if it's another game.
When you look at tape of Alabama, how good are they?
I mean, they're real good, you know what I'm saying. But we're not gonna look at them like they're anybody better than when we play. They're really good though. Don't get me wrong, but I mean they got some key players and stuff like that. So.
And Simpson said he thought he was done for the year when that injury happened against South Carolina, but he got on the field in the Fiesta Bowl, didn't play in the ACC Championship, said his position coach sees something in him he doesn't see in himself.
Absolutely. Well, after the break, we are joined by the experts, Mike Rada from our sister station down in Birmingham, Alabama, and the Charleston Post and Courier's Gene Sapikoff. Welcome back to Tampa. We are now joined by 2 people we respect immensely. Mike Rada from our sister station down in Birmingham, and Gene Sapikoff, of course, you guys know from the Post and Courier. Let's start tonight with Mike. What is the feeling about the rematch? It seems like in South Carolina, people think Clemson have a better shot this year.
Well, I think the Alabama people think that Clemson has a better shot this year, too. I think Alabama did not want to play Clemson. I'm talking about the fans now. I'm not talking about the team. I don't think the team really cares who they play. They're going to be ready to play regardless. But I think the fans have a genuine concern about this game. They saw what Deshaun Watson did to them last year, and while this defensive front and this front seven for Alabama is better than the one last year, their secondary can still be suspect. And with Clemson having all those outstanding receivers back in the fold for this game that they didn't have last year, I think that's got Alabama fans concerned.
Gene, I'll ask you, what does Clemson have to do? Because pretty much everything Alabama does concerns them.
Absolutely, Darren. I think what Clemson has to do is avoid turnovers. Alabama is the most opportunistic defense I've ever seen, averaging almost 1 touchdown a game just on defense. And as we know, Deshaun Watson has been a little interception prone this year, had 2 in the game last week against Ohio State. And if Clemson can avoid those kind of turnovers, I think they're in good shape. If they dig themselves a hole early, though, it could be trouble.
Mike, my biggest question for you is the Sark-Kiffin thing. Does that affect this game?
I don't see how it can't affect this game. Now, they're being very positive in training camp, at practice. They're all talking very positive about what Sark has brought to this team. Sort of some calmness and some energy all at the same time. But this has to have an effect on Alabama. I mean, when you think about Lane Kiffin being the only voice that Jalen Hurts has heard all season long, and now all of a sudden he's going to be listening to Steve Sarkisian on the field. Sure, they've had 6 or 7 days in practice to try to fine-tune that relationship, but still, the Sarkisian, by rule, wasn't allowed to be on the field with Hurts, wasn't allowed to be in the meeting rooms with Hurts. So he's virtually had no contact with Hurts.
When you look at this Clemson team, where they're so strong is all that experience. But the guys that were not getting that experience in the title game last year, how much will Deion Kane and Mike Williams affect this one?
Well, huge. I mean, look at Mike Williams and the way he's played this season and down the stretch. And Deion Kane is just a big-time player. And Alabama is so good at battling for 50-50 balls. That's one of the things that under Nick Saban that you see when they play just the man-to-man defense. But those guys are as good as anyone in the country, particularly Williams, at fighting for those 50-50 balls. And if they win their share of battles, I think Clemson will be in good shape.
My final question for both of you. Deshaun Watson, Jalen Hurts, how big of a difference is it having that experienced quarterback in this game compared to a guy who doesn't have the experience in this game?
I think it's got to be huge, and I think we saw that last week when Alabama, in the semifinals, when Alabama played Washington. Jalen Hurts struggled. He was never in a rhythm, and that's one of the things that Sarkisian really has to do is they have to get back to what they do best, and that's going wide, throwing the short stuff, getting him in a rhythm, and then letting that running game take over.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's no better defensive mind than Brent Venables at rattling an inexperienced quarterback except one guy, and that's Nick Saban. He struggled a little with Deshaun Watson last year, but again, if Clemson can avoid the turnovers, I think they're in good shape.
Guys, thanks so much for your time. Thanks for joining us. As we head into the game, let's hear from Dabo Swinney one final time about this rematch.
I'm very thankful to be here. I just tell you, I'm not real excited about playing Alabama tomorrow night, but I'm very, very thankful to have the opportunity to be here. And it's one of the things I try to tell our players, you know, and having been a part, this is my 3rd national championship experience, you know, we all know how time it's just gone. And I think it's important that you breathe a little bit and that you enjoy it. Don't let the pressure of the moment and the situation, you know, cause you to lose any pleasure.
So, Darren, we're here. We're ready to go tomorrow night at Raymond James Stadium. Final thoughts from you on this matchup?
This definitely feels different with this Clemson football team that did a year ago out in the desert because they've been there, they've done that. But also, they're just equaling what they did a year before. Last year, playing for that perfect season, I think that was a huge weight between the shoulder blades, and I think they thought about that. No college football team's ever been 15-0. Alabama can do that. They have confidence. Dabo Swinney has told his team they ran out of time. They didn't lose to Alabama. They only lost by 5 points. It's going to be an interesting game tomorrow. I don't expect it to be like the Fiesta Bowl was. I think it's going to be a good game.
The thing for me that stands out was just watching Clemson's defense last week against Ohio State. Absolutely. They were just dominant. Absolutely dominant. I don't think it matters what offense is playing against them. When you've got those big guys that are that fast up front, it is going to be very hard for Alabama, even though they are Alabama, to score on the Clemson Tigers.
That being said, Alabama 26 straight wins. They're looking for their 5th national title in 8 years. That is a dynasty. That is the team. That is the team with the belt that Dabo Swinney wants to take away. And if he does, that's going to start something special for this Clemson program that they've been building on for the past 5 years.
I think this one is going to be fun. That will do it for us here in Tampa. For Darren Stoltzfus and our team of photojournalists, we appreciate you joining us tonight, and we look forward to all of our reports tomorrow night live from Raymond James Stadium. Have a great night, everybody.